Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Matea Rentia, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. How are you all doing today? The summer has been flying by, as I'm sure is happening for the rest of you as well. Our summer, with my kids at least, it's really June and July because they go back to school literally right in the beginning of August. So I always feel this intense sense of pressure to get a lot of things in the summer. And I have found personally the best way to make this happen is to get rather intentional. Honestly, at the end of May, we sit down as a family and we decide what are the type of things that we want to do. And then I document the summer. I have one list on the fridge and we put all the things. If we do something new, we put it on the list, or if we're going to do it, we have it on the list. And you have to look how many things we're doing, because otherwise time goes by and you don't realize how many incredible things you're doing all the time. So I have a little list here, things that we've recently been doing. We went to the Indiana State Museum. That was so super fun. It's interesting. In my mind, I'm always like, I don't want to go to a museum. And then when I'm there, gosh, do I nerd out about facts about churning butter and what old TV cameras used to look like. It's just so fun. They have a lot of good exhibits where they have progression of time, which obviously is what museums do. But I find it to be really interesting. And also, I went all the way with ages. So my son is now 7, and then all the way up to my oldest stepchild is 18, and all of us had fun. So that's a tall order, right? Also, I don't know if you guys know this about me, the gift shops at museums could quite possibly be one of my favorite places. That, independent bookstores. Of course, I end up leaving with a bunch of things from the gift shop. That was so fun. I did something in May called the Secret Burrito Society. Well, that's what it's affectionately known online. There's a traveling pop-up burrito thing. It's Cali Boys Burritos. I'll link all this. Again, it's all always linked in the show notes. You have to pre-order on a Tuesday on their Instagram stories. You say how many you want, you pay, and then on Sunday, they tell you where it is. You pick a pickup window and they bring these burritos out to your car. It's a really good time. It's one of the best breakfast burritos that I've ever had. Now, listen, these are expensive burritos. I think it's like $18. However, it lasts a few meals. So if you are a little bit more volume restricted, or just in general, you're eating healthy, because there are a lot of great ingredients in there. But then, for example, there are some tater tots and other things in there. It's what I call like a high-low burrito. There's some great stuff and some stuff that's maybe just more on the fun food category, but it was such a nice addition to be able to try that out. What else did we do here? Ooh, I tried a new cafe. This is in the Indianapolis area. It's called Rabble, Rabble. I hope I'm saying that right. Best latte I've had in years. I've been doing a lot more of a push. I forget how much I've talked on the podcast about it, to go to more independent coffee shops, independent bookstores. So I'm really about small business, people doing things outside of these massive corporate structures. It is so nice to go somewhere where not only do the drinks taste amazing, but there's also a real striving for building community. And it just has the most amazing energy as well. We had multiple graduations. My son had a birthday party. I mean, there's just been a lot, and it's all in the best way. Oh, we're getting to a lot more walking trails. This kind of fights who I am as a person, because growing up, I always just want to be on the couch doing nothing in hermit mode. Now I've gotten better about that. I've transitioned that more to crafting time, but I really challenge myself nowadays to get out of the house, go do a walk, go do these things. I will say separate than the morning walk that I do, because that I'm pretty good at. All right. I wanted to share one thing. I love, sometimes you guys share with me different links to, maybe you see a New York Times article that you think is really interesting. Someone just sent me one on longevity and some different science. And I love when you guys think of me and you send that to me. Another person sent me here a Harvard study, and I thought this was really interesting. I just wanted to bring up a little fact about this. So and we'll link to the press release that they had for this, but the title of this press release was "Micro Walks Can Have Bigger Health Benefits, Experts Say." So when you read down here, I'm just going to read a little paragraph that just says a little interesting fact here. Research has shown that the body works hardest when it first starts moving, expending slightly more energy within the first 30 seconds of walking than in subsequent minutes. Quote, a person who walks for 30 seconds would get this extra boost, but so would a person who walks for 4 minutes. They both get the same boost for the first 30 seconds before it levels off, Lee said. That's the person who ran this study. Okay, I just think that's really cool because it really highlights I don't care how you get your movement in. I don't care if it's a minute here or there, if it's an hour all at once. The reality is, I want you to move and I want you to figure out how it can fit into your world. And something that I really work on with patients, it's we have to get away from perfection. A lot of people don't have the time for this really big dedicated exercise window. You might have a lot of obligations in the morning, then you're doing work, things are busy. Some days might be shifting often as far as what you need to do during the day. And the reality is, I know that you have a minute here or there. We've all got it. You're scrolling online, you're sitting there letting your brain relax for a second. No one is working 24/7. You're like, no, Matea, I do. Listen, I'm someone who works a lot and I'm telling you, you do not focus well when you don't ever move your body. Fact. If you can move your body, if you are able, I know that some people might have disabilities or certain limitations. That's okay. We all work within our bounds of reality. But if you can, just get to moving a little bit when you can. The easiest place to start putting this in is when you have to go to the bathroom. Hopefully you're going to the bathroom a few times a day. The average person, if you're hydrating okay, you're likely going to the bathroom about 7 times, if not more. If you, each time you did that, even if you're at home, you walk back and forth a few times, you will get more movement in that day. So start small, start however you need to have that happen. But I think that this is just interesting that right in the beginning, you're getting a little bit more benefit. And so maybe this could be motivational to some of you if you can only get these little movement breaks in during the day, that maybe that could still be amazing at the end of the day. So hopefully that motivates you a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about Retatrutide. I've mentioned it when I've talked about the medications coming out in the next few years, but let's talk about this. So real quick before we get into the data, let's just talk about first what is Retatrutide. So Retatrutide is what we're calling a triple agonist. Triple G is how some people are referring to it. Up to this point, you will already know GLP-1 and GIP because GLP-1 was semaglutide. When you think about tirzepatide, it's a GLP-1 plus GIP. Tirzepatide is Zepbound. So now with Retatrutide, it's GLP-1, GIP plus glucagon. So let's talk about what does glucagon do. The glucagon component in Retatrutide, it acts to increase energy expenditure, meaning you're burning more calories at rest, and accelerate fat metabolism in the liver. So let's go through what are the 3 effects here. So in the body, glucagon raises blood sugar by promoting the liver to release stored glucose. So you have insulin that says store the sugar, and then glucagon says release. So those two are opposite of each other. In Retatrutide, this glucagon receptor agonist, it's giving metabolic benefits with number 1, boosting calorie burning. So it's increasing your basal metabolic rate. It's encouraging your body to burn more calories even when resting. And then the second thing, it's this accelerating fat breakdown. This is called lipolysis. It's going to trigger the body to break down stored fat that can be used for fuel. And this is really significant because a lot of people that struggle with their metabolic health, they will have excess fat stored in the liver. This is really significant that we're having a tool here that can help treat that. This synergy of these 3 acting together is likely why we're seeing such incredible results. So let's talk about that now, what that looked like. Retatrutide is not FDA approved yet, but it has had a phase 3 clinical trial that was released at the end of May that Lilly published the results. It's interesting what it's showing. We've heard this buzz for the past few years here, how this is really going to be a game changer medication. Just to give you a little bit of a ballpark here, the mean weight loss. So let's just have a moment here. It's not average weight loss. It's if you take everyone that's in the study, we'll talk about how many were in it and how they did it, and you line them up, who had the smallest weight loss, who had the biggest weight loss, you put them in a line right in the middle. That person lost 28.3% of their body weight within 80 weeks. So more than a year, this person lost 28.3% of their body weight. Guys, this is on par with bariatric surgery. So this is very exciting. Bariatric surgery, we typically think about 30, 35, maybe up to 45%, depending on how extensive the bariatric surgery are. There's different levels to it. People typically think of sleeve, which is just where you cut out part of the stomach, but then there's Roux-en-Y, and it goes all the way to other procedures as well. But right in the beginning, when we think about sleeve, this would be a very acceptable result if you had a surgery to get to this. So that's absolutely incredible. So let's talk about how they did this. They took adults who have either obesity or overweight and more than one weight-related comorbidity. These people did not have diabetes. This was a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trial. And guys, this is really the top of the line study design because the patient doesn't know what they're getting. The person administering the medication, like the physician who's following that person over this time, doesn't know. No one knows. Now, it becomes very obvious at some point. You're seeing some people lose nothing and other people lose a bunch. But the point is that this is the best study design. They had over 2,000 people in this study. They did several different doses. So there was a 4 milligram starting dose, 9 milligram, and then 12 milligram. And it was an 80-week period. Baseline mean weight when people were starting was 248.5 pounds, baseline BMI 40. The mean weight loss at week 80 was 28.3%. But this is what is just mind-blowing, okay? The beginning, that 4 milligram dose, the mean weight loss was 19%. At 9 milligrams, the mean weight loss was 25.9%, and at 12 milligrams, 28.3%. That's unheard of for a first dose to lead to that amount of weight loss. Think about the starting dose of this medication. It surpasses by multiple percentage points what you on average would achieve with Wegovy, which is semaglutide. And you're lucky if you get there. Not everybody even gets there with Zepbound. So the fact that Retatrutide, that you're already there on the first dose, just incredible. Also, when you look at this, how many patients reached a significant amount of weight loss? Again, this is staggering. So if you look at the 4 milligram starting dose, over 25% loss, close to 30% of people lost that. Over 30% of total body weight loss on the 4 milligram dose. Keep this in mind. Over 15% and over 35% total body weight loss, close to 6%. That is tremendous. So then let's go all the way out to the 12 milligram dose. 62.5% are losing 25% or more. That's 6 out of 10 people are going to lose 25% or more. We don't have that high of a number that can achieve it on previous medication. And I bring this up because there's this misconception when we talk about Zepbound, for example, which is tirzepatide, where people think, oh, everyone's losing over 20%. That's not true. On average, some people might get to 21, 22%. Some might get much higher, but there's a lot of patients that I might have where they're at 12%, 15, 19%, but we're not getting a 6 out of 10 people that are getting to over 25% weight loss with Zepbound. And with that top 12 milligram dose, over 30% of body weight loss, 45% of people. Again, that's almost 50%. Can you imagine almost 50% of people losing over 30%? And then over 35% weight loss, 27.2%. Again, we're living in an incredible time where this is the case. The one thing I wanted to go over, which I think majority of you are probably interested in, what about the side effects, tolerability, things like that? So one thing, let's just talk about who had to discontinue due to side effects that they couldn't tolerate it. So on the 4 milligram dose, there was 4.1% quit. Not super high, but there are some people that won't tolerate it. I bring this up because there's this misconception that everyone is going to tolerate these meds and they're going to work for everyone. And we do know with the previous medications, some patients will not respond to them. They don't lose 5% or more. They hardly feel the difference on them. And to the patients where it works, they say, I can't believe that person had no response. Well, there are reasons for that. So some people will not be able to tolerate it. On the 9 milligram, 6.9% discontinuation rate. And then by the 12 milligram, 11.3%. It's clear here that while the weight loss is higher with the higher dose, the tolerability trade-off really comes into play. And a lot of these studies, they have set parameters as far as when they're going up and what they're doing. They're not typically seeing, okay, can we stay on that same dose longer, right? Everyone needs to follow the same protocol. When you have these protocols approved, the only way that these studies are valid at the end of it is if everyone's following the same rules, right? So it's quite possible that these discontinuation rates might be lower in the real world if people can do it slower and have more adjustments in between. Who knows? So top side effect was nausea. I'm just going to round these numbers, okay? So it's about 27% on the 4 milligram dose, and it went all the way up to the 12 milligram dose to 42% nausea. That's high, okay? So that's high. Diarrhea, again, on the 4 milligram dose, 25% went all the way up to 32% on the 12 milligram dose. Constipation, anywhere mid 20%. Vomiting, this I'm not excited to see. On the 4 milligram dose, 10.6% vomiting, all the way up to the 12 milligram dose, it was 25% vomiting. That's not a fun number to see. In my mind, I really feel like I think vomiting is an unacceptable trade-off for these medications. But again, when you look at this, I didn't go all the way into it. Is it just that they once vomited, that they ever reported vomiting? There can be a lot that goes into this, but again, just something to look out for. The other thing, I think people always think about mood, sort of not caring about things. We use this term dysthymia. That at the beginning dose was 5.1% and went all the way up to 12.5. And the last one on here is going to be for UTIs. Okay, I hope that this was fun today to go through this trial, to hear the numbers, to give hope to some of you that maybe previous medication you either didn't have results or had results, but they weren't as great as all these examples that you hear out there that get glorified all day long, and that you have some hope that there are other medications coming down the line that can be helpful, that have different mechanisms of action, that are hitting multiple different pathways, and that potentially that can be really helpful for you. Again, we don't have an exact date on that. If I ever get any changes on that, I'll always update you, but now you at least have an idea of what is coming down the line. I hope that you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk soon. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to rentiaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend. I'm listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be rentiaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.